Hi everyone, and welcome to the Adam Smith Institute in Conversation. And today we're joined by the president of the ASI, Madsen Pirie, and we're here to talk about his new book, The Optimistic Outlook. So whilst we have you here, Madsen, thanks for joining us, and also what inspired you to actually write this book, and what brought on this sense of optimism for 2026?
Well, we're fed doom and gloom daily and have been so for several years. The world, we're told, is going to hell in a handbasket. Floods, fires, conflict, trashing the planet, pollution, you name it, it's there every single day. Now, they say that good stories don't make good news. Dog bites man is news, man bites dog isn't. Sorry, man bites dog is news. The point is that this is simply not true. If you look at the long-term trends in almost every field of human endeavour, transport, energy, biology, medicine, agriculture, there are systematic improvements, breakthroughs going on almost daily. And far from being, the last century of mankind, this is going to be probably, almost certainly, the best and most productive century that humankind has ever had. And someone ought to be saying that to counter the doom and gloom that's there every day.
Right, let's talk about some doom and gloom, because when I was reading this, I was pretty much skeptical when I started, just because I'm used to hearing the economy is crashing, pollution is sky high, we should all be really worried, no more plastic straws, that kind of stuff. AI is taking all the jobs from young people, we can't get employed. But one of the most fascinating things is you talk about AI in such a, well, what's another word for optimistic?
Positive.
Positive way. BBC, just this morning I was looking, BBC is reporting we have an AI bubble, and also we're at risk for losing about 1 million jobs to AI. But you actually say, well, no, this is not true. It's actually making things a lot more efficient and furthering kind of creativity, and it's used in all different kind of sectors.
Yes, I'm sure it will go down as the next industrial revolution. We had one originally based on using water power to lend strength to the human elbow, and then it was coal. Railways changed everything, and electricity, and then computers, and now it's AI, which is going to revolutionise the world just as much as the previous industrial revolutions did. Now, we talk of job losses. Job losses is another way for saying improved productivity, which means getting more for fewer inputs. And if we can get the same output for fewer jobs, that makes us all richer. But what happens to the jobs that are displaced? What happens to the people in those jobs? The answer is they find other jobs. The advent of the motor car was a very bad news for stable boys and grooms and people who drove stagecoaches. Very bad news indeed for them. They lost their jobs. But the motor car brought up a whole range of new jobs, not least petrol pump attendants, garage mechanics, motor repairs, motor sales. This always happened. We had in the past 90% working in agriculture, 10% in other industries. And now we have something like 3 to 5%, if you count fishing, working in agriculture, and we're producing more food than we did when 80% of the population worked. So I regard AI as yet another tool that human beings will use to improve productivity and make us all richer.
And it's interesting what you said, because in the book itself, I mean, when you talk about the invention of the motor car and things getting propelled in that industry, I mean, we remember that kind of the steam engine was kind of introduced and worked on around 1812. Rudolf Diesel in the late 18th century and early 19th century was working on the diesel engine and making that more efficient for people. And now we're actually, you're highlighting different modes, even in this industry that you thought couldn't get better. We're looking at hydrogen energy, we're looking at different kind of energy sources, hydrogen. Tell us more about that, like sustainable kind of aviation fluid, fuel, etc.
Yes, what we're trying to do now is have less impact on the planet while we live the kind of lives we want to live. We want to be able to get around, but we don't want to clog the air up with particulates from diesel engines or indeed from the emissions from petrol engines. And so we're moving to electricity. Now, you can generate electricity cleanly if you want to by wind or solar power. Nuclear power is probably the most efficient. but none of these are as polluting as the previous ones. The trouble is that governments get these crazes and petrol is bad, so let's all turn to diesel, and then you turn to diesel, and you find it emits more particulates than the petrol engine that emits sulfur dioxide.
Yeah.
And it would really be better if they simply set targets rather than telling people what to do. Our target is you must produce air that is 99% clean, and it's up to you to work out how to do it. And that lets human creativity, which is our ultimate great resource, it sets it loose to find solutions that work. And we've been doing that. Aviation will be cleaner. Certainly, road and ship travel will be cleaner. They'll be more efficient, and it'll generate more wealth.
Yeah. I thought it was really that whole thing about targets and government not actually telling you how to do it, but just saying you should have to do it by X amount of time, like
yes.
net zero.
Could I just interrupt to say that the EU is notoriously bad at that. They want process-driven technology. We're going to tell you exactly what type of machine you must use, what type of catalyst, what type of this. What we want is not process-driven technology, we want result-driven technology, where this is what you must achieve, it's up to you to decide how to achieve it. The EU is notoriously bad at that, and it's a very good thing that we're no longer bound by their diktats.
Yeah, I was just going to say another issue is when they have these ideas and they have an idea for the future, sometimes they allow like councils, or this happens in the NHS in the UK, where they're saying, we want this to happen, you set your own target, you set when it's going to be due. So then you have different NHS trusts actually looking to revolutionise their whole process, but actually they're all setting different dates for when they can accomplish it.
That's not a bad thing. If you have competition to achieve the best results, we can look at the ones that work best and the others can copy them. I mean, no one in Britain in the NHS is going to copy Wales, for example, because they have outcomes that are far worse than any of the English authorities achieve. So by having different standards, people talk about postcode lottery, but by having different targets set and different ways to achieve them in different parts of the country, we can look at which models work and which ones work less well than others.
Yeah, that's the simple market forces.
Yes, competition is the best regulator.
Yes. I think the last thing that I was really interested in was the kind of environmental stuff, because that's what a lot of people are kind of worried about. And you see on most polling, they're saying, you know, we do have a kind of push towards net zero. We're scared about the planet kind of going like boom and everything exploding. So I actually looked on the World Health Organization, because there's a lot of doom and gloom around this topic in the first place. So they're saying that burden of disease is on the population from air pollution alone is about 6 million deaths, and that was the newest data is from about 2019.
Yes, most of that pollution.
2019.
Most of that pollution is indoors, and it's caused by stoves in poorer countries using wood or dried dung in order to produce energy. If we were to give all of them petrol stoves, it would be a major health improvement by WHO standards. First of all, I'm deeply suspicious of the World Health Organization. And secondly, I think the world is in fact getting cleaner. The world is in fact getting richer. And people parrot that, oh, the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, and the gap is widening. No, that is not only untrue, it is the very opposite of the truth. The rich are getting richer, and the poor are getting richer much faster, so the gap is closing all the time. You won't find that from any United Nations body, but it happens to be true out there.
Yeah, and as you said with the stoves, they've said it's about £2.1 billion for people that rely on polluting fuels and technology for cooking. Do you know, I don't know if you remember this from, I think it was last year, Daily Mail had a story about the amount of money Brits are spending providing air fryers for people in kind of like third world countries or poorer countries. But that is exactly to solve this. Not what we're talking about.
Yes, what they want, of course, is clean water and cheap fuel. That is what's been improving the living standards of life expectancy of people in poorer countries. That's the thing that works, so do more of it. That's what we should be doing. The fact is that the air in Britain, despite all this talk about pollution, is getting cleaner. The environment is getting cleaner. There are fish in the Thames that were not there 50 years ago. In the last 30 years, Britain has got 4% more sunlight. That has nothing to do with global warming, it's to do with cleaner air. We've reduced the pollution of sulfur dioxide and particulates, so more sunlight is getting through. So we're 4% sunnier than we were 30 years ago. Now, amidst talk of continual rain, and there's been a lot of that recently, the idea that Britain is in fact getting sunnier because the air is cleaner is a fact we ought to bear in mind. These pollution scares are alarmist. Pollution is getting better, not worse.
I, for one, am enjoying the warmer weather, the sun into November and December, and also it might be raining, but it's also quite warm.
Yes, which is a good thing, because people talk about global warming means hotter summers and so many surplus deaths. Yes, but there are far more surplus deaths from cold than there are from heat. It is the winter months that fill the hospitals with old people dying of hypothermia. So bear in mind, it's a balance. We might have a few more deaths in summer. We're going to have a lot fewer deaths in winter.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think lastly, one of the big kind of positive things we can look forward to in this century would just be the medical kind of revelations and the new technologies and actually the progress that we're making on so many different medicines for different diseases and issues.
Yes, this is probably one of the most striking positive developments. We're now beginning to tailor medicine to the individual patient. Instead of having to do blanket stuff that are fit for the whole population, we're now being able to target individuals. We're now developing drugs that can target cancers without harming the healthy cells. This promises to extend not only the lifespan of human beings, but their health span, the number of years of good health that they have. I find particularly exciting is the way we're engineering bugs to do our bidding. Bugs that can eat up and gobble plastic. Bugs that can produce nitrates from atmospheric nitrogen. Bugs that can help plants ward off predators, insects, without the use of vast quantities of pesticides to pollute the environment. And these are the technologies you should be looking at and applauding.
Yeah, I think coming to next year, we're going to have, or even next century, we're going to have a really fun time kind of just exploring what new things are to offer. But we should definitely remember that we should remain positive and not be so doom and gloom as to everything. Things are working around in the background and we've got so many exciting things to kind of look forward to. We shouldn't just throw in the towel and think, oh, well, AI is stealing my job, everything's awful, fires in California, earthquakes, etc. Yeah.
Yes, the future is going to be a lot better than we are led to believe these days. We look forward to sunlit uplands and continual progress, and the force driving that is human ingenuity. It's never failed, and it won't fail.
And on that point, thank you very, very much for joining us at the Adam Smith Institute to talk about the book. And I've read it, and I thought it was actually really uplifting, and I was smiling for about a week, and then I got back into my doom spiral. But everyone should definitely take a read and spend some time actually maybe not being so caught up in the bleak atmosphere and the news every morning. Remember, there's actually things to look forward to.